Hello everyone, Nitsa Gamer here to go. Hello everybody, Nitsa Gamer here, and this is the challenge run that I attempted to do on Persona 3 Reload. So this is late May 2025 when I'm recording this footage right here, and the game was released in February 2nd of 2024. Not too long after the game was released, I wanted to stream or do a challenge run of Persona 3 Reload. Pretty much just to get myself in a challenge run before someone else calls dibs on it, and I knew everyone was going to do like the solo Makoto runs, which, yeah, there's like 3+ of them or something, but yeah, so I wanted to do a challenge run on Persona 3 Reload, so I decided to do a run called the No Attacking Run. The No Attacking Run is inspired by Jack Bensey's Persona 5 Royal No Attacking Run, which in my opinion is probably like one of my favorite challenge runs done on Persona 5 Royal. And while the run was no doubt something that only a masochist would do, it was such an intriguing idea that I wanted to see if it could be done in the other Persona games. In Persona 4 Golden, it can't really be done because it doesn't have like the broken mechanics of the DLC Personas, and someone else already did the challenge run on that with using items as the exceptions for not attacking. And I pretty much wanted to see how far I could go with Persona 3 Reload while utilizing the DLC Personas within Persona 3 Reload. And not too long after the game was released, I started on the challenge run. And between early February to mid-April, I pretty much did the challenge run for 3 chapters straight and then stopped. I tried to do my best to script this video, record this video, and play this challenge run, but oh my god, this challenge run is the worst challenge run I've done. Even worse than Persona 5 Royal by doing absolutely nothing, believe it or not. Yeah, that run, which is a masochistic idea where you have to literally do nothing and let the AIs do everything for you. This run, the No Attacking Run on Persona 3 Reload, was so bad that I canceled it. I canceled it, and while I did try to script a video for it, I pretty much shelved it and focused my entire focus on Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne without using skills. And since then, I've uploaded my Majora's Mask without using rupees or item drops run, and then I realized, you know, I suffered a lot doing this run. I need to release a video on this. So yeah, this video is essentially a canceled challenge run. So fair warning, it's a cancel challenge run. This is not a complete challenge run, and this will only cover the first 3 chapters of the game. So bear that in mind as you watch through what is without a doubt the worst run you can ever do on Persona 3 Reload, Persona 3 Reload without attacking. I hope you guys enjoy and see how much I've suffered. Hello everyone, Nitsa Gamer here to go insane and be sexy while doing it. Persona 3 Reload is the 4th version of Persona 3 and the 2nd remake of Persona 3, adding all the best parts of FES and Portable while neglecting the FEMC. It might make some of us so mad that we can't play as the FEMC anymore that we want to bash Atlas's skull inside out, but you know what? Violence is not the answer. So we're going to play this game that Atlas worked so hard on in the wrong way in this pseudo-pacifist run. Can you beat Persona 3 Reload without attacking? Upon reading the title, you might think that this is either impossible or that this is going to be similar to Jack Bensey's No Attacking run of Persona 5 Royal, and the answer to both of those is not really. Now, the idea of no attacking may sound silly, but it's not as impossible as it sounds. Thankfully, the game has a few advantages that we could utilize to make such a silly idea possible. So, here are the rules. The first 5 battles are tutorial based and require attacking, so those are the main exceptions, so the run officially begins on April 21st. If there's any further fights that force us to attack with no passive options, those are also exceptions. One example is the tutorial for Theurgy later in June. We cannot attack enemies directly, no melee, no attacking skills, no insta-kills, no attacks, no Theurgy skills that deal damage, no using the poison ailment, and no using items that deal damage. Attacking enemies after being inflicted with rage is allowed, as attacking is out of our control. Damage can only be caused by repelling enemy attacks or using certain status ailments that deal damage to the enemy's health. Charm is allowed, but the poison ailment is banned, as I feel that ailment is more direct damage than it is indirect.
we must play on merciless difficulty on a fresh new game file. The use of DLC personas are allowed, including pulling them straight from the compendium for free, and we must get the true ending. With all the rules said, let's get this run started. So, after we piss off all the Minato fans, Unknown Girl was about to fail the challenge, but thankfully other girls stopped her from committing self-defensive murder. We get introduced to our new school, populated by a bunch of Silver Surfers. No idea why the NPCs are like this, but perhaps it's all the attack and magic mirrors that we cannot use. Then one night, Yukari barges into my room and takes me to the rooftop so the shadow here wouldn't fail the challenge run. Sadly, it corners us because the door can only be unlocked from the inside, so Yukari tries to win the challenge, only to be knocked down, and Makoto gets the same idea, which accidentally causes a mass murder to happen on the rooftop. And then we get our first mandatory battle where, even if we guard, we will always dodge the enemy attacks at 1 HP. And this is clearly scripted into the fight because it's impossible to evade attacks when you guard. Sadly, we commit our first 2 murders, leaving us scarred for life, so we pass out for a week. And then, my dorm mates have the guts to force me into becoming a murderer.
It's our job to defeat them. Pretty exciting, huh?
No, that does not sound excited at all, you sick psychopath. And so, the 420 jokes live on as we enter our main dungeon of the game, Tartarus. And here, we are forced by Mitsuru to murder a bunch of innocent shadows in 4 mandatory fights. Guarding and escaping isn't an option, and all fights are tutorials, scripting us to choose specific commands. After that nightmare, I get appointed leader, and from this point forward, I vow to never take an innocent shadow's life ever again. If Cease wants to do justice, they are gonna do it my way. Anyway, after Akihiko shows us Akihiko, we are free to do whatever we want, and jeez, it's at this point I had to revise the script 3 times, deleting almost 4 pages of the script as I had to try a different strategy as my first did not go so well. Now, in Persona 3 Reload, the tired mechanic from the original game is removed, which made grinding frustrating, but they actually made completing a whole block harder in Reload by the lack of SP management. It gets easier after the first 2 chapters, but noticeably limited in the first chapter on a first playthrough. You will get 2 Snuff Souls from April 20th, and getting soul drops from chests is super rare to get. Now, I made the choice of using these Snuff Souls so I could beat the first Tarterus Guardian and the shifting tutorial boss fight without attacking, but that was my biggest mistake. Because unlike Persona 4 and 5 where you had to complete a dungeon before a deadline, in Persona 3, you have to prepare for the deadline at every full moon. Tartarus is technically optional till the day you face the final boss fight, but it's required if you want any chance of beating the full moon bosses and fusing higher level personas. And with the first full moon operation having 5 mandatory fights and the 5th one being on a timer, saving these Snuff Souls is a must if we want a chance against the priestess. So, we want to refuse to use any SP restoratives in Tartarus. Seeing how I boned myself from the start, I had to restart the run all over again. The run itself truly starts once we get the shovel time from the 4th mandatory encounter on April 20th. Instead of investing in money, I invest in more EXP. Money is thankfully no issue in this run since we can grind endlessly for life stones and treasures from breakable deposits. When you have the option to either stay awake in class or close your eyes, I highly recommend neglecting your studies first and investing in courage first. We want to get to level 2 courage first so that way we have access to Club Escapade as soon as possible, as going there has a huge benefit for us. Now, the Tarterus Guardians offer more EXP than the random encounters do, but the main question you're all likely wondering is, how do we win fights without attacking? There's no persona this early in the game with any skills that can help us get past the fights without attacking. And while that is true, that is why we're going to rely on horrible DLC practice. Similar to the DLC personas in Persona 5 Royal, these personas can be pulled from the compendium free of charge regardless of level, trivializing any challenge even on the hardest difficulty. While you can only get them for free once, you can still get them if you have enough yen for it. And while I am against this DLC practice, gosh darn it, I want that DLC money to be put to good use for my own benefit. Now, one method of not attacking enemies is by repelling damage back at the attacker. So, how many of these DLC personas have a repel affinity? 0! They all have resist, weak, or null affinities, and only Sataniel has one drain affinity. Okay, so how many personas have passive repel skills? 0. Okay then, what about counter skills? It has a small chance of repelling physical damage, but it may be our best shot. So, which DLC personas has a counter skill? 3 of them. However, they require leveling up and don't inherit it initially, so this is gonna do us no good. So we don't have any repel passives, so this run is impossible, right? Well, actually, there's 2 DLC personas that can deal indirect damage. On second persona, Hectiki has the skill Sexy Dance, which has a 45% chance of charming all foes with an ailment that can have them attack each other. And Haru's second persona, Astarte, has Tetrakarn, which puts up a reflective physical shield, and Makarakarn, which puts up a reflective magical shield. And I can show you how it works, as I managed to get this to work on my first try with the Not Venus Eagles. We use Sexy Dance to get the enemies to attack each other. Once one of them is dead, we have no means of dealing indirect damage, as charmed enemies don't slap themselves to death apparently. So, we use Tetrakarn on Makoto and hope the enemy attacks us with physical. With one reflect of its physical attack, we defeat the first Guardian fight without attacking. Now, you may notice that I won this fight without Junpei and with Yukari KO'd. In fact, I let the remaining Ruthless Ice Raven kill Yukari first before I put up Tetrakarn. This was done on purpose, as the less party members you have standing by the end of battle, the more EXP you gain. With nobody to share the EXP to, Makoto gains all of the EXP, leveling up from 3 to 6. At this point of the game, leveling Makoto up is far more important. Even though both Junpei and Yukari are useful in this run in their own ways, they are unfortunately more of a detriment in us gaining the passive skills we need as soon as possible. Now, the Raven fight cost all of Makoto's SP, and while we could use the clock to fully restore our SP pack, I want to save as much of the Twilight Fragments as possible and just return to Tartarus every night till we can brute force our way through Block 1 without using SP restoratives. So, that's 1 Guardian down, 3 to go. Wait, did I say there's 4 fights? Isn't there supposed to be 3? Well, technically yes, but the Shadow on the 6th floor of Tartarus is a mandatory fight to learn how to use the shifting mechanic, a mechanic we cannot legally use. Trying to escape from the battle is impossible, so we need to dedicate a day to this tutorial fight. Thankfully, doing one-day dungeon runs is not as important in Persona 3 since almost all of your social links are available in the daytime and you do the dungeon crawling at night. You're only missing out on potentially raising your social stats at night, but you can still raise your social stats during class, and you can raise your courage the day after you went to Tartarus by visiting the nurse's office and drinking the medicine. Although, if it's a holiday, Sunday, or you have Kenji here bugging you into having ramen with him like he does on the 22nd of April, some days you may not be able to drink the medicine. It took a few tries on the 22nd of April, but I managed to do the shifting tutorial fight with the use of Sexy Dance till 1 enemy remains, and then defeat the last enemy with Tetrakarn with only Makoto standing. I even managed to get a shuffle time, which is rare to happen if you don't get one more during fights, but it can sometimes trigger. However, the second Guardian proves a lot more difficult, because not only are you running by a chance of enemies being inflicted with charm, but sometimes the charm doesn't take effect and they recover instantly. Or the magic hands use the turn to heal you instead of attacking their allies, even if you are full on HP and have no room to heal. And the Barbaric Beast Wheel has a large health pool, with the hands inflicting very little damage, and the chance of the Beast Wheel killing the hands after 3 hits is very likely to happen. Because Tetrakarn costs 24 SP, we end up losing our SP and not having enough indirect damage out of the beast, soft-locking ourselves into a game over. So the main problem in this run is SP management and not having enough to be able to put up a physical shield. And, as I said before, Tartarus is optional, but the full moon bosses are mandatory, so we can't let ourselves waste a single SP restorative on Tarterus Guardians. But thankfully we can still grind against random enemy encounters, and here's something that is important to know about how this version of Persona 3 handles Tartarus. Reload has all floors in a fixed layout and will stay in that layout when you visit it again during the same day. However, as long as you don't save after exploring a floor, the layout and the chest contents will be different if you reload your file and visit that floor again. This could be useful in the hopes of getting soul drops every day, but as I said, it's an incredibly rare spawn. So rare that it feels like it's a less than 1% chance of happening. And unfortunately, none of the current personas that are level or the DLC personas come with SP invigorating passives or spirit drain so we can drain SP from an enemy. And trying to get spirit drain or counter from shovel time is a no-go since those cards can only be obtained from a rank 3 skill card. Something we don't have access to on the Thebal block even if we get the Arcana Burst. The most we can do is equip the Pixie Dust accessory before entering Tartarus, and we can try to grind against random enemies for EXP gain, and even then, this is all by chance if you can defeat all enemies before you run out of SP. The enemies need to do enough damage to each other that you only need to do a physical shield once to defeat them. But the RNG gods, more often than not, work against our favor. Although, even if we can't defeat all enemies, escaping from a random encounter is a valid option as you can still gain EXP from the enemies you defeated, in quotation marks. You just can't get shovel time if you run away. But as long as we run from battles Makoto only, we'll be able to gain, sadly, as much EXP as we can efficiently gain in a run like this. On the 23rd of April, we have the option to join the track and field team for the Chariot social link. Ignore it. Instead, we're going to dedicate our time with Kenji till we can get a high enough rank. Why? Because at level 6 with the Magician persona Necromata, she can learn the skill Marin Karen. While Sexy Dance is a great skill to use for indirect damage, Marin Karen can only inflict one enemy with charm, but it has a 60% chance of working instead of a 45% chance, and it only costs 5 SP, which is exactly what we need to bypass the second Tarterus Guardian. So, until we get Kenji to a high enough level, this will be our method of getting Marin Karen as soon as possible. Never thought I'd be so excited to get such a skill in Persona 3 of all games. During my grind in Tartarus, I got stuck in a loop with the Muttering Tiara as it kept trying to use its magical skills, but couldn't because it ran out of SP. And because it kept doing this, I couldn't get it to attack me. And when it did decide to attack with physical, which is rare to happen, it was only attacking Makoto instead of trying to KO Yukari. This was annoyingly happening for 5 minutes straight, so I just had to escape from the battle with Yukari, and thankfully it was enough EXP to get Makoto to level 7 and Yukari to level 3, so she has more SP to heal me. Because when I do the grinding, Junpei is just my meat shield, while Yukari is both my meat shield and healer, but regardless, my intent is to only end battles with Makoto. So this moment was the rare exception I leveled up Yukari. After grinding out chests and as much EXP as I can on the 24th, I head back to reality, drink the medicine, and get my courage up to rank 2. So, we can now enter Club Escapade at night as early as April 25th, which is a huge advantage for us. Not only do we get an extra Twilight Fragment here, but we have access to the luxury shop owner who holds the Avaricious Rain, which boosts the wearer's EXP by 50%. And yes, we're gonna get this as soon as possible. Although I lack the yen for it, so I decided to reload back to the 21st during the dark hour and spend like maybe 3 or 4 hours breaking mineral deposits in the Thebal block, grinding for treasures and lifestones. I grinded so much that I managed to get 99 lifestones and over 41,000 yen worth of treasures. After selling my lifestones and some of my HP recovery items, I had just enough yen to purchase the rain, so I purchased it, but don't equip it right away. Instead, we grind against the first set of random encounters with the Pixie Dust accessory for that extra 10 SP, and then do the second encounter with the rain, which yes, does give Makoto far more EXP than usual. 50% extra EXP may not sound like a lot, but it really does make a difference in a run like this. And that's practically the grind for a long while. So, I only spend time with Kenji, unless he's unavailable, and I grind on 2 or 3 random encounters, but always end up escaping from the battle and leaving one enemy alive. While this grind may not sound so bad, trust me, there is a lot of reloading and trying the encounter over again due to bad RNG. Sadly, this run is not based on skill, it's based on RNG, and that's what sucks so much about this run. It honestly reminds me of the grind of the do-it-nothing run in Persona 5 Royal in a way, only it's better because I can actually do something, but also worse because the grinding is so damn slow, and the RNG is always working against me. I am gaining less EXP each day, and needless to say, this is a run with a fascinating idea, but it's not fun to play in any way. Around April 28th, I get up to level 8, and on April 29th, not only is it a holiday, but it's the first day where going to Tartarus is a no-go, but it's also the day we unlock the shared computer, which is awesome. We get the Mindful Bootcamp in the EY Todai form node, and between the two, the most useful for us right now is the EY Todai form node, which unlocks the ability to gain extra drinks at the vending machine from the EY Todai station. Since SP restoratives are scarce and vending machines restock every Sunday, we want this advantage as soon as possible. And after we get 5 ranks with Kenji on the 30th of April, we're finally able to give Necromata enough bonus EXP during fusion to learn the skill Marin Karen. After a while of fusing, I fuse Marin Karen into Aramitama. The magic hands and the beast wheel both attack with strike, and the hands also attack with fire. With Aramitama resisting both strike and fire, this is the perfect persona to use to endure the fight in more ways than one than I initially thought. And after nearly an hour and a half of attempts fighting the second Tarterus Guardian, the chat and I managed to figure out a strategy. At first I thought of having the hands slowly take down the beast's health, but by doing so, we drag out the fight more than we need to and actually get nowhere, as the hands can also waste their turn healing. So no enemies are going down by the time I run out of SP, as I need 24 or more SP to use Tetrakarn against the last enemy standing. But then, the chat suggests that instead of slowly attacking the beast wheel, I can charm the beast wheel 2 times in a row, and that is enough turns to take out both the magic hands, and from there, we just repel the physical damage back. But it's not enough damage. But that's where Aramitama's best skill for this run comes into play. Provoke. Provoke enrages an enemy and forces them to use their basic melee attack. This is a skill that almost nobody uses, since using this ailment actually doubles the attack power of an ranged enemy, but it also halves the defense and agility. If we repel this damage, it does almost half of the beast's HP. Now the hardest part is not the timing, the hardest part is getting the RNG gods to work in our favor, so a good majority of the failed attempts was due to Marin Karen or Provoke missing the enemy. But eventually, after more than an hour of trial and error, I have the beast inflicted with charm twice to get rid of the hands. I then use Rakunda on the beast after it defeats the last hand. It recovers, I then use Provoke, dodge the attack, use Tetrakarn, and repel over 200 damage. And then I use Tetrakarn one more time, and wow. So that's another Tarterus Guardian defeated, with only one more left in the Thebal block. Can we finish the Thebal block before the first full moon operation? Well, let's see how our attempt goes against the Swift Axle. Spoilers, it goes terribly. Now, we can repel both its physical and wind damage back for repel damage, although it resists the damage being repelled back, so little damage is actually being done. We cannot provoke the Swift Axle to get that extra damage in, so the most we can do is use Rakuda on it whenever possible and hope we have enough SP to put up a reflective shield. Which, surprise, we don't have enough of. Now, between repellent physical or repellent magical, we can inflict the most amount of repel damage by repellent physical, so we need to use Tetrakarn only. But of course, this gets us nowhere, unless we were to use SP Restoratives, which, as I said before, I want to avoid using. So, I have to continue dedicating my finite life to the grind, and my freaking god, I hate this run. And this is not so fun or easy to script either, because to tell you every step I take is hard without watching my bored as hell stream and me doing the same bored as hell grinding. Needless to say, without being able to restore SP, I can only win 1 or 2 battles per day, most of which I just escape from because it saves more SP for me. May 5th is the second day we can't go to Tartarus, so I use that day to get an extra 5 SP, Once it was one day before the full moon, I got to level 10 with Makoto and used the last day to give him an extra 7 HP. And while I could use my Twilight Fragments to get my SP back with the clock, I wanted to see just how far we can get through the full moon operation without attacking. So, there's 5 mandatory fights. 2 back-to-back with Shadows with Yukari, which is simple as I just let Yukari get KO'd and I can finish both battles without running out of SP. And in between the second and third battle, I can restore Makoto's SP using the vending machine drinks I bought every Sunday, which, with the exception of the 4 Biotic pack, we cannot use vending machine drinks during battle. After the third battle, we level up to 11 and finish the fourth battle no problem. And since we got through the fights with both Junpei and Yukari KO'd, they can start the High Priestess at 1 HP, and since this boss is on a timer, having our party members dead as soon as possible will hopefully help us win the fight. Now that we're in this fight, let's see if we can provoke the High Priestess. Okay, what about sexy dance after she calls for reinforcements? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah, the High Priestess and her minions are immune to all ailments, and even if we have Tetrakarn active, there's one major problem. Both her minions will attack first, so your shield will be wasted on them. And while it is possible for her to go for strike attacks, there's just no reliable way to repel physical damage without losing the shield or dying from the other attacks first. So the only reliable way of damaging the High Priestess is repelling her ice magic. That is, if we can damage her because she completely nullifies ice attacks. Although, there is one way around this. There are elemental break skills where you can break the immunity to fire, ice, electric, or wind for 3 turns, and they function like buffs and debuffs where they go away after 3 turns and can be extended to 6 turns. So, when can we get Icebreak, you ask? Well, you can only get it from tier 4 sword cards at Shovel Time, so that's a no-go, and the earliest persona to learn it is King Frost at level 34. But you also need to get him to level 36 to learn the skill, which is no problem if we're bonded with the Emperor Social Link for the bonus EXP. But there's 3 major problems. 1. This grinding took so damn long just to get to level 10. Grinding to level 34 in the Thebal block is not ideal since you gain less EXP from random encounters the higher you level up. You're unable to get SP restoratives from the mineral deposits within the Thebal block, and the only way to restore SP is to use the clock at the entrance, but only if you have 7 Twilight Fragments. And considering how extremely rare it is for a Twilight Fragment to spawn on the floor of Tartarus, you can see this grinding is only suitable for a Masochist. And even then, the Masochists would be begging to Persona 3 themselves if they were to dedicate themselves to this grind. Although, there's a second problem. Cane Frost is impossible to fuse until you complete Elizabeth's request, which doesn't become available till after the second full moon operation. So even if we grind it to that level, it's impossible to fuse Cane Frost. The third problem is that there's only 2 personas in the entire game Makoto can obtain that has Icebreak. Cane Frost and Saki Matama, and Saki Matama requires you to be at level 36, which means even more weeks of repetitive grinding for Twilight Fragments. If you fail to see why the High Priestess is not worth it, then allow me to give you the bullet points. So really, the only logical way to test if this is possible is on a New Game Plus file. But that destroys the whole point of a challenge run, so in the end, there's only one solution to get through the High Priestess. Nice.
What to do?
I did it, guys! I did it! I just summoned the literal devil and completed it! I did it, guys! I did that with hard effort. So that was the secret all along for the no attacking run. You were supposed to attack to get past the High Priestess. That's the key. That was the secret all along. So at this point, the run has already failed. But believe it or not, I kept going. I pretty much excused the High Priestess with the knowledge that she may be possible on New Game Plus, with of course the timer being the big if part. I just didn't want to dedicate my time to grinding for Twilight Fragments and grinding slowly while going more and more insane that I already am because a game that deserves to be loved. So, well, yes, this is cheating and the run has already failed. I kept going because I wanted to see just how far I can go, and while the run does get better, it also gets worse. So, at the start of the second chapter, we unlock Elizabeth's request, and because we dedicated our time to visiting Tartarus every single day we could, we actually completed all 4 of the chest opening related quests, all of which give us SP restoratives. Needless to say, we're saving all of this up for the next full moon operation. Anyway, we now make the effort to get past the Swift Axle so we can finish the Thebal block and get into the Arqua block. We start off the battle with 132 SP, and our main goal is just to repel the physical damage with Tetrakarn. I could switch to Morgana's second persona to nullify the wind attacks while waiting for the physical reflect to go off. Eventually, I run out of SP to use Tetrakarn, which isn't enough damage to finish the Swift Axle off, so I just make one use of the Luxury Chocolate to restore 30 SP, enough for one Tetrakarn. And when he uses the attack buff, I use that turn to use a Racunda, so it will be more damage to finish the Swift Axle off. With us at level 14, we can finish the rest of the Thebal block and grab the first document, and start the Arqua block. And the best part about Arqua is that not only do we get better treasures from mineral deposits, but we have a chance of getting free soul drops. Free 10 SP restoratives. With easy access to soul drops, we could grind for as long as we want without having to rely on Twilight Fragments or moving on to the next day. And that sounds great! It's not. This is what causes PTSD, but I'll talk more about the grind a little later. So, the next Tarterus Guardian is the Will-O-Wisp Raven and 2 Lightning Eagles. Okay, I know some of you are gonna tell me, but Nissa, they are called Tartarus Gatekeepers in this version, not Tarterus Guardians. Well, yeah, okay, I don't really care, okay? Tartarus Guardians sounds like a cooler name to me. It's my video, so nah. Anyway, the Lightning Eagles can attack with Slash and Electric. Both attacks we can repel, though it will favor electric attacks more, and the Will-O-Wisp Raven attacks with Slash and Fire, but heavily favors using Fire, and while we can repel the Slash attacks, repelling the Fire is a no-go as it drains Fire, though thankfully the repel damage only nullifies the repel. And let's just say, without being able to rely on repel and physical only, and us being limited on our SP, this fight became a major roadblock. And to add more frustration to PTSD, they are immune to ailments, so Charm and Rage is a no-go. But there are 2 ways we can prepare ourselves for this fight. And by prepare, I mean put ourselves in psychological torment where we question what is reality and what is not, and that maybe Jigsaw was a lot more merciful when whatever this challenge run is. Okay, I won't lie, I am scripting this months after I have streamed chapters 2 and 3 of this game. Mainly because the run got so bad I had no inspiration or desire of writing the script, let alone making this run in general. But I'm gonna try to do my best to try to summarize what I did in this chapter to prepare for the next full moon operation. So, thanks to the use of soul drops, which I could get from mineral deposits, I could get free SP restoration on Makoto without needing to use the clock or go to the next day. And because of that, I can start leveling up Junpei and Yukari more. But since the next full moon operation forces me to go in with the boys only, we're gonna mainly focus on leveling Makoto and Junpei up. Junpei so he can eventually learn his counter skill at level 16 for a 10% chance of repelling any physical damage, and Makoto so he can fuse personas with Counter, Invigorate 1, and Firebreak. First things first, we gotta do hours and hours and hours of grinding, because even if we get Shovel Time and actually end battles with Tetrakarn, we gain so little EXP, and after spending a long time with 3 or so battles on our SP, we gotta spend a longer time trying to get soul drops to get our SP back. While soul drops are not a rare drop, they are also not common, so it's possible for me to get a few on one floor, or none after exploring the only 5 floors available of Arqua we can explore. This takes so long and what took up the mass majority of my streams in chapters 2 and 3, and my god was it absolute torture. Seriously, I think I gave the doing nothing run a hard time because at least the incompetent AI in that run was able to attack and do something, but here, the rule set limits us so much that I spent several hours grinding just to get up one level, and that's not an over-exaggeration. Now, when it comes to learning Invigorate, sadly, it's not in my realm of possibility without spending more days grinding, as it requires me to be at level 17 and have the Hermit social link maxed out in order to get Invigorate 1 with Naga. Right now, the two skills that we can get is Counter and Firebreak. Counter can be learned from a level 15 strength persona at level 18, so we just gotta bond with Yuko every time she's available. And the other skill we need is Firebreak. It's the earliest elemental break skill we could possibly learn this early in the game, and requires us to level up a level 12 slime to level 15, with sadly only 3 ranks of the Fool social link being usable for bonus EXP. So I made sure to fuse slime with growth 1, just in case I accidentally end a battle without having him equipped. Now, one of the methods of trying to get Spear Drain and Counter early is by getting the Arcana Burst in Arqua, and selecting a rank 3 sword card that gives me the Counter and Spear Drain skill cards. Doable if it weren't for the RNG gods hating anybody who plays video games, because not only can it take hours before you get a major Arcana card if you're ending battles without all that attacks or one mores, but even at times when I grinded in Arqua with the Arcana Burst, I have never got a sword card with Counter or Spear Drain as options because the RNG gods are fucking jerks who love to see challenge runners suffer. Outside of trying to gain levels with Makoto and Junpei, I spent time in the real world ranking up the strength and Hermit social links anytime they were available. After getting 5 ranks with Yuko, that is just enough bonus EXP to finally learn the passive skill, Counter for Makoto. Oh man, I remember once we got the skill, it felt like the cure to cancer. Ode to Joy music was playing, and I found the ultimate answer to life's problems. And in practice, it doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it made no difference when I was grinding because Tetracard was just more reliable than Counter. Counter not only has a 1 in 10th chance of repelling physical, but that's also if the enemies attack Makoto instead of my allies, and if they attack me with physical over using magic or casting ailments. So in reality, it's a less than 10% chance, making a 24 SP constant skill the most efficient strategy to repel physical damage. My god, why does this run just keep getting worse? This run hurts my brain so much that I'm bound to forget that 1 + 1 = 3. So for the time being, I just do the same grind over and 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 over again so I can level Slime up to the point that he learns Firebreak at level 15. And honestly, there's really nothing I can say about this grind. We can now grind endlessly, unlike how it was in the first chapter. We make use of the Fool Arcana card as well as the Major Arcana Burst to gain more XP than usual while never having a sword card show up with Counter or Spear Drain. And while having a conversation with my chat did help maintain my sanity, this run got so bad that talking about violent taxes was a more fun topic to talk about. Yeah, a fucking challenge run got so bad that violent taxes was a far more interesting topic to talk about. You know it's reached a low if even your own audience is bored of the challenge itself. Anyway, what feels like 7 years of grinding later, we finally learned Firebreak with Slime, so we make sure to fuse personas with Counter and Firebreak as both of these skills are essential for the second full moon operation. And no, we did not level Junpei high enough to get his Counter skill. I finished grinding with Makoto at level 16, Junpei at level 12, and Akihiko stays at his starting level, level 14, as I never used him at all outside of using his SP to heal at the entrance. So, after we find out our next potential ally is trapped in Tartarus for 10 hours straight, which to me just means 3 separate days of stream in this run, we make sure to use the washroom more than once to piss Yukari off, find the school morgue key, and enter Tartarus with Makoto only. Though, for obvious reasons, I avoid all random encounters till we find Fuka. and we end up in the Emperor and Empress fight with the boys only, with Fuka offering help, but we're gonna completely ignore that she exists. Now, the way this fight works is that you use Fuka's analysis ability to scan the enemy's affinities, as they will nullify everything except for one affinity. The Empress will attack with magical damage, but will have a weakness to one of the 3 physical attacks. The Emperor will attack with physical, but will have a weakness to one of the magical attacks. As the fight goes on, they change their affinities, forcing you to utilize the shifting mechanic and good use of what each party member has to do an all-out attack. But how the hell is this going to be possible in a no-attack-it run? Well, remember when we grinded for that skill Firebreak? Yeah, we got Firebreak just so we could damage the Empress. So if we repel her fire damage and only her fire damage, we can hit her with our own attack. But how the hell is this going to be possible for the Emperor? There's no physical break skill in the game at all, and he only attacks with physical, so this fight's impossible, right? Wrong. The Emperor only attacks with slash damage, and regardless of how he changes his affinities, he resists slash damage. So we can repel his attacks every time, regardless of what move he uses or how he changes his affinities. Now, his most devastating attack is a move called Gitsue, which does the most amount of slash damage the closer it is to a full moon. And since it is a full moon, not only does this move do the most amount of reflected damage when we repel it, but it can one-hit kill any of our party members. In fact, we lost our first attempt, no thanks to this move, so you should always have a physical shield active on Makoto if you don't want to lose this fight. As for SP management, we use the SP restoratives we got from completing all of Elizabeth's chest opening quests. Makoto's job is to apply Tetrakarn and Makarakarn while keeping the Firebreak active on the Empress. Junpei and Akihiko, meanwhile, either guard or use items to heal or restore Makoto's SP. Late into the fight, the Empress will start prioritizing Firebreak, which is great because this means she'll prioritize using fire damage. And after 30 minutes into the battle, we managed to bring Karma down on the Empress with a quarter of health left on the Emperor. So we keep using SP restoratives, use Tetrakarn, and 7 minutes later, we managed to get the Emperor to bring himself down. So this took 2 tries, 38 minutes of battling, and literally every single SP restorative I have, so any less and this fight would have had to rely on Makoto's counter to beat the Emperor, which is a chance I'm not comfortable taking. But I gotta say, despite how long it took, this was probably one of the most satisfying fights to complete in this run. If you want to see the fight in its entirety, the link to the full fight will be in the description below. So, with Fuka getting all the praise, despite the fact that we never used her ability at all, we complete Chapter 2, and now... time to suffer more in Chapter 3. Sarcastic yay! So, we start off playing a Persona game properly by spending time with social links, raising our social stats, and completing Elizabeth's requests, including the one that unlocks the fusion for Cane Frost, as I mentioned earlier. And with Fuka joining our team as our navigator, we now unlock the most overpowered addition that every Persona 3 veteran hates, Theurgy. Here, we're forced to use Mitsuru and leave Junpei behind, and we can see what Mitsuru is truly known for. Oh yeah, the most annoying skill from the original game is now what makes Mitsuru the best addition to our grinds going forth. With her covering Merit Karen and using Rakunda to debuff enemy attacks, this saves a lot more SP usage for Makoto. Now for June 13th, we're forced to enter 3 shadow fights, all of which go well. Merit Karen them to attack each other till one enemy remains and repel the damage using Tetrakarn. On the next floor, we enter a fight where Yukari attacks the enemy, but this is 100% out of my control. What isn't out of my control though is that we're out of control on using any moves except for using Yukari's Theurgy attack, so Yukari goes against Makoto's wishes and completely destroys an innocent shadow. If she weren't such a reliable healer, I would have kicked her out of the team, but since this attack is tutorial based, this will not violate the challenge run as there's no way to skip it. Now, if you have played this game, you should already have an idea of what Theurgy skills are legal for this run. Anyway, we try to get past the first Arqua Guardian, Gatekeeper, on June 14th, but it requires me using a lot of SP recovery. And sadly, relying on Fuka's Theurgy to restore SP is unreliable because there's no guarantee she will restore your SP and instead opt to give us an all-party Heat Riser instead. And since it takes so long for her to fill up her Theurgy gauge, even with the Soul Fortune activated, we need to find a different strategy. So, for the sake of not grinding for hours for SP restoratives, I make the effort to try to get Invigorate 1 as soon as possible, which thankfully does not require me to grind. It just requires me to max out the Hermit social link as soon as possible. Naga is the earliest persona to learn Invigorate 1. We're at the right level to fuse him, but I definitely don't want to grind till level 22 just to get the skill. Thankfully, I managed to max out the Hermit 2 days before the full moon, and while spending my time bonding with the social links was an amazing break from this run, I unfortunately have to get back to this run. So we fuse Naga and thankfully get the Invigorate 1 skill finally. This allows us to restore 3 SP per turn during battle, and let me just say, this skill alone is a huge time and resource saver. Now I don't have to use SP restoratives as much or fear running out of them. So I now make the effort to get past the bird fight, and yeah, having Invigorate definitely makes this fight far more safe. As I said, while we can repel the physical and electric attacks, we can only repel the fire at the Will-O-Wisp Raven if Firebreak is active. We can debuff the defense with Mitsuru's Raccoonda and buff the defense with Junpei and resist the fire damage taken, and heal with Yukari as I was actually able to max out her characteristic trait within the 3rd chapter to reduce her healing cost to literally 1 SP. And while we can repel enemy attacks, take a guess how long this fight took. 20 minutes? 30 minutes? 45 minutes? No. This fight took an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not joking. Most of the reason is having to stall to invigorate SP or trying to get Fuka to recover SP through Oracle, only to have her buff our party instead. And I got to stall the fight so that way I can apply both Firebreak and Makarkarn so I don't repel the fire damage back without Firebreak active. This fight took ridiculously long, but we did manage to beat the first Guardian Gatekeeper, whatever, of Arqua. So now, we have more floors to explore. Now, the next Guardian fight is 2 Grievous Tables and the Heretic Magus, and my god, I'm having a hard time scripting this one because I'm scripting this months after I did the fight, so I completely forgot how the fight goes.
And there you go. That is as far as I recorded and scripted for the entire run. After that, I pretty much stopped. I did not script anymore, I did not record anymore, and pretty much just the last 15 minutes at the video, I pretty much edited recently. And now, here we are in the present day, well, present day being late May 2025, I pretty much have no inspiration of being able to write the rest of the run, but I will try to summarize what I did for the rest of the 3rd chapter, the best I can. So, without further ado, here's what happens for the rest of the 3rd chapter, ending with the Lover's Arcana.
So anyway, Nitsa recorded this audio on May 30th here to wrap up how the rest of the run went. So, even though I could write why I had a hard time against the Grievous Tables and the Heretic Magus, for the sake of my own sanity, as well as not wasting you guys' time, let's just say, despite my attempts, I have never beaten them before I ended up canceling this run. So, I only got as far as beating the first Arqua Gatekeeper, and even though grinding has gotten semi-less painful with Mitsuru offering Marin Karen and Rakunda and Makoto now having personas with the Invigorate passive, grinding and SP management is still hell and grinding still takes way too damn long. All I know is that after my attempt against the second Arqua Gatekeepers at level 18, I max out at least the Emperor social link and start the next full moon operation at the hotel. And after rage quitting 30 minutes into the fight against the Hierofant Shadow, I made sure to prepare for the Hierophant Shadow by making sure I have at least one persona with Null Light. So I make sure to fuse Principality with Invigorate 1, Counter, and Rakunda. Now, the Hierofant is the only other fight from this run that I fully upload to YouTube, simply because while the strategy was not as unique as the Empress and Emperor fight, the Hierofant still required a unique strategy to make him doable without attacking him. So after stocking up on protection, we face the Hierophant, who thankfully is predictable as he always has a consistent pattern. And we're gonna abuse that pattern to keep ourselves alive while repelling damage back. First, the Hierophant will attack us with an AoE light damage 2 turns in a row. During these turns, we want Principality equipped or any null light persona equipped. After 2 turns using light attacks, it will use Doomsday Doctrine, a move that will inflict anyone who is not guarded with fear. Since I use Yukari for healing, she gets inflicted, and for my 4th turn, the Hierophant will go for a singular assault dive on anyone inflicted with fear. This is mostly because anyone with a status ailment will have a high chance of being crit, and we're gonna abuse this loophole by protecting whoever is inflicted with Tetrakarn. Now, having a party of 4 really helps, as Makoto's job is to change personas accordingly to the Hierophant's turns, apply Tetrakarn, invigorate 3 SP almost every turn, and use it Principality to nullify the light attacks. And if Makoto's Theurgy gauge is full, we can use Cadenza to heal everyone to 50% HP, while applying Masukukaja on the party, which can really come in handy for dodging the light attacks. Yukari is mainly napping throughout the whole fight because while she can't heal our party for 1 SP every use of Media, items heal us better than her low tier healing skills, and because of her low level, she's the most vulnerable party member, so I kept her dead most of the time and only revived her near the end of the fight. Junpei and Mitsuru are mostly around to cure the fear ailment, use items to heal the party, or recover SP onto Makoto when he's too low. Fuka is mostly used for her Theurgy to hopefully get the party some SP back, but sadly it takes forever for her Theurgy gauge to fill up, and it's entirely RNG if she goes for a Heat Riser or heals the party instead. So when I use her Theurgy, I try to use it after a Cadenza when everyone is healed up and has an agility buff. It doesn't guarantee that she'll recover SP, but I want her AI to find the other options not as reliable, if that's even possible. Honestly, I don't know how her AI works. Despite finding a solid strategy of repelling the physical damage every 4 turns, the fight does become pretty tight and rough. But after 37 minutes of battling, Junpei repels the last physical damage with all 4 party members standing. And this is a good thing because apparently if you're too underleveled, certain fights will bring you up to a certain minimal level, regardless of how much EXP you gain. So everyone will be at level 22 if they are less than level 22. This is very fortunate for us because, well, the full moon operation isn't over yet. After that scene, and failing to come up with a heterosexual explanation for the 3 coffins on the bed, we get our protection again and enter the fight against the Lover's Arcana. Thankfully, on top of everyone being level 22 and having more skills available, everyone also has their HP and SP full. Now, the only 3 affinities the Lovers can attack us with is Pierce, Fire, and Almighty. We can repel the Pierce attack since it resists Pierce, and despite the Lovers nullifying Fire, we can repel the Fire as long as we have a Firebreak active on it. But what makes this boss fight so hard and annoying is its ability to inflict Charm. An even worse version of Fear, as Charm can have our allies heal the boss fight or attack our own allies, and after it uses Seductive Breath, there's a near guaranteed chance that anyone who is not guarding will be inflicted with Charm, since it also comes with Charm Boost. Thankfully, I have plenty of items to deal with the Charm, and the use of Patra with Yukari to cure the Charm, but it's not gonna be that simple. Despite setting up Tetrakarns in the hopes to repel Holy Arrow, any allies inflicted with Charm can get rid of the shield and end up damaging themselves or wasting their shield too. And while I can use Makara card to repel fire attacks, Makara card can also repel Charm, which the boss nullifies by default. And I need to be careful if I have Astarte equipped, who I mainly use for Tetrakarn and Makara card, as the Lovers can exploit her weakness to fire, and being this low leveled on Merciless difficulty can be extremely dangerous. So now that you have an idea of how the fight goes, how long does it take for us to beat the Lovers? And the answer to that question is, how long does it take to do any damage at all? After watching my entire stream with my attempt against the lovers, let's just say our window of repellent fire damage all comes down to RNG. First, we need to be able to have Makoto apply Fire Break and have a magic shield up, both of which can be difficult if the lovers waste the shield using Charm on Makoto, or has Charmed Makoto, which can potentially waste a turn if I can't get Yukari to cure it, as she does go first before Makoto. And yeah, timing all of this and repelling what we want is needlessly difficult. Now, you might be asking, what about Holy Arrow? How well do we do repellent physical damage? And the simple answer is, we don't. For whatever reason, it seems the AI is smart enough to never use Holy Arrow on anyone with a physical shield active. No matter how long I went into this fight, repellent Holy Arrow never happened once. And because Holy Arrow always hits and always crits on top of inflicting a party member with Charm, it can one-hit kill anybody. And if it hits Makoto, I'm fucked. And the only reason Makoto loses his Tetrakarn to begin with is because of a charmed ally attacking Makoto and getting rid of the physical shield. And because of our high chances of being inflicted with charm, the chances of getting insta-killed with Holy Arrow is extremely likely to happen. Not only did both attempts end no thanks to the entire party being charmed and Makoto killed with Holy Arrow, but the lovers killed the run altogether. That's right, I've never beaten the lovers and officially ended the run here. I was growing more and more frustrated and insane and made the right call by ending the run altogether. So, in the end, it is stupid to beat Persona 3 Reload without attacking. This run was fucking stupid and dumb, and I hate it. I hate it so much that, honestly, it left a stain on the game itself that I refused to play Persona 3 Reload for months. Before finally getting back to the game and finishing my first playthrough and reminding myself that this game is awesome if you allow yourself to attack. This run was so bad that it was somehow worse than the doing nothing run of Persona 5 Royal. And since this run was already dead when I couldn't get past the Priestess, with the only method being grinding and farming rare Twilight Fragments and Tartarus, yeah, in the end, this run was dead from the start, and I definitely made the right call to cancel it for the sake of my mental health. While there were a few interesting moments in the run, like the fight against the Empress and Emperor, the Hierofant, and maybe the Barbaric Beast Wheel fight, this fucking run can go to hell. So, after watching this entire run, I know there are at least 3 things on your mind that you might be asking that could make this run feasible. 1, can I get an accessory to nullify the charm during the lovers fight? And the answer is kind of. We can buy an accessory from Club Escapade at 500,000 yen, and while we could grind for several hours for materials to sell from both Thibault and Arqua to get the yen we need, the problem is that this accessory can only be bought once. And the only other accessory that exists that can help us deal with the charm ailment is one from the police station. While it's only 3k yen, it only helps resist the charm, and with the lover's crazy high chance of inflicting us with charm, this is probably gonna help us only a tiny bit. Remember, the problem is being able to repel the fire, and we can't really do that without having to cure everyone from the charm first. Now, the second thing you might be wondering is, will damaging items count? Because one thing that Deadshot and Jack Bensi did in both their no attacking runs is allow the use of items as a means of consuming an item, though in at least Jack Bensi's run in particular, it was only used as a last resort if repellent damage was not an option. That was my idea too. I have no doubt that there's probably Tartarus Gatekeeper fights that are literally impossible to kill with repel damage alone. So while my rules at the start of the video stated that no items that deal damage is allowed, I was open to it as a last resort. Problem is, the fights that I'm dealing with now both have proof of repel damage being feasible, so I can't really justify myself using items in both fights. Stupid, I know, but hey, that's how stupid this challenge run is. And the third thing a lot of you might be asking, as I got this as comments both during and after the stream, is why did I not use the advantage of skill mutation? For those who don't know, when you fuse a persona, there's a rare chance of certain skills being able to mutate into either a higher tier skill or to a random skill of a higher rank. Though, because of this feature has a lot of RNG involved, and honestly, I still don't get how skill mutation works exactly, I didn't even bother going for this solution. While I might be able to get better passive skills through skill mutation, as it seems to be my best bet in making this run possible, honestly, I don't fucking care. This run made me nearly hate Persona 3 Reload. Add that on top of lights flickering during dungeon crawling, which is clearly the result of my graphics card not working properly, I just don't care. The no attack and run of Persona 3 Reload is the worst challenge run I've ever attempted, and I'd rather eat literal bullshit than continue this run again. Persona 3 Reload is an amazing game, but the no attack and run is never worth attempting. Maybe the run might be interesting as a New Game Plus run, but I don't care. I am choosing to move on. And I can take peace in the fact that I was able to share this story with you guys. If you want to watch a proper Persona 3 challenge run, check out my 2-parter run of Persona 3 Fest where I try to beat the game with mandatory battles only. But if you desire something more interesting, check out Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne without using skills, Sonic Adventure 2 without collecting reins, or Majora's Mask without collecting rupees or item drops. These runs are far worth your time and did take a lot of months out of my life to complete, so please watch them. I really want to know that my time has been worth it. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ding the bell for more Nitsa content. Be sure to stay tuned for the next video, and by the end of it all, we've learned one thing. If you want to get through life, pacifism is never the answer. The only way to get through life is with murder. Okay, no, that was a joke. Please don't